Good evening to everyone online today. Amitabha Buddha. My name is Xiongfeng. I am a Buddhist nun at LYMT Temple. Congratulations on taking refuge in three treasures during this ceremony last week. This is the first step for the Buddhist disciples to start their spiritual journey. Normally, when this ceremony is conducted in person at the temple, you will be given some information after the ceremony about what it means to be a Buddhist disciple. Since we could not do that this time, we have prepared this online class that addresses most of what people typically want to know and things that you wonder about Buddhism. I think some of you might have been to the temple but not know much about the temple, or some of you might not have the chance to visit the temple. Some of you might not know much about Buddhism, or maybe you need to refresh some concepts. So today, Master Xiubao and I are trying to give you a general introduction of our temple and Buddhism. We have tried our best to cover the basic topics. Buddhist knowledge is extremely vast and profound, and we certainly will not be addressing all of the questions on your mind today. Please remember that you can always call the temple or refer to our website. For more ways to contact us with any of your Buddhist practice questions. By learning Buddhism, you can improve your quality of life. Especially, you could know how to solve your problem, how to face adversity, how to control your temper, how to deal with the problem, and how to let go of your attachment, how to turn affliction into happiness. Finally, you can find a way to achieve liberation. So now I'm trying to be your tour guide to show you around the temple. I have added a very short film for you, so please join our online tour now. Amitabha Buddha. Welcome to the LYMT Temple. This is home. This is family. This is where we worship. This is where we belong. This is where we serve. This is where we learn. This is where we grow. Welcome home. If you are heading down number 5 row, you will notice with these yellow tiles and distinctive curved roof lines. Indeed, it is a unique building with lots of special activities taking place inside. The LYMT Temple is a vessel of compassion that helps preserve the teachings of the Buddha for future generations. Without the diligent hard work of the monastic community to apply the Buddha's teachings through their everyday lives, these traditions would be lost, and the teachings of the Buddha will eventually disappear from our world. The temple is just like a big family for people of all ages and from all walks of life to find spiritual support. This is the courtyard, and behind is the wall mirror. This is our mother temple in Taiwan, and behind the wall mirror is our main Buddha hall. This is where we have most of our services and ceremonies. When you come inside this courtyard, you can see this temple looks very different than contemporary architectures in Vancouver. So you can see many distinctive architectural features: red pillars, tile roofs, the giants. These are the features of Chinese palatial architecture. If you went to Beijing to visit an ancient palace, the Forbidden City, you also know some of the similar architectural features because they are all tailored to Chinese palatial architecture. This is Guan Yin Gazebo. Inside the gazebo, we have the statue of Guan Yin Bodhisattva. Many people are familiar with the term of Buddha, but maybe you don't know what is Bodhisattva. Buddha is an enlightened being. A bodhisattva is a being who is striving for enlightenment. Bodhisattva is a Sanskrit word. Bodhi means enlightenment, and sattva means being. So bodhisattva is a being who is striving for attaining Buddhahood. This is Bodhisattva Guan Yin. Her name means literally, listen to the song of suffering of this world. This is a deity in Buddhism that answers the people's prayer. That's why when the followers come to the temple, the first thing they do is they come here, they offer incense to Guan Yin Bodhisattva, and they also offer their prayer at the same time. She is by far one of the most popular Buddhist deities in Asia. The reason we offer an incense to the Buddha or Bodhisattva is to show our respect to them. Visitors can take home a bottle of blessed compassion water here. The body and mind refreshed after drinking this water. What is the meaning of offering incense? Incense symbolizes self-discipline and training, which will awaken our wisdom and compassion. When lit, the incense is transformed from something hard and unyielding into the fragrance of the Dharma, the truth that teaches how to end suffering and thus find lasting happiness. Incense is used as an offering to the Buddha. Incense that is fragrant and pure is considered to be especially worthy of being offered as a sign of homage and respect. This is the main Buddha hall, where we have most of services and ceremonies. In the middle, we have a statue of Shakyamuni Buddha. He is the founder of Buddhism in India 3,000 years ago. He was born as a prince. His name is Siddhartha Prince. Then when he became a Buddha, he was known as Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni means the sage of the Shakya clan. Muni means a sage. And to the left of Shakyamuni Buddha, we have his disciple Moggalliyayana, and to the right is another disciple, Ananda. 3,000 years ago in India, they did not have a writing system, so after the Buddha passed away, his teaching primarily transmitted in an oral fashion. So people were told to memorize the teachings and recite them on a regular basis. Because if you recite regularly, you won't forget. And after a few hundred years, they finally have a writing system, which enabled them to write down the teachings on palm leaves. You might want to ask what's that sign on the chest of Shakyamuni Buddha. We get that question a lot, especially when we have many school students have guided tour with us. The students will ask us, what's that sign on the chest of the Buddha? It looks like a German Nazi symbol. Actually, it's much older than that. It's an ancient East Indian symbol of good fortune and good luck. It is called Swatika sign, was an auspicious symbol used in ancient India. It has been used both turning clockwise and counterclockwise. Nowadays, it is used in Buddhism to represent the myriad virtues of the Buddha. But unfortunately, the German Nazi symbol, they took it and twisted it into their own logo. There is a slight difference between Nazi logo and swastika sign. The Nazi symbol rotates 45 degrees. They represent totally opposite in terms of what the symbol represents. Since the inauguration of the temple in 1999, there have been masters leading the public to practice in the main Buddha hall every day. They chant the Buddha's name, the 5 Pure Land Sutras, and conduct other services throughout the year. Every Sunday, there are group practice sessions from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The devotees follow the melodious song of chanting from the masters and together recite sutra, chant the Buddha's name, and do prostration. By doing so, they can enjoy purity in both body and mind and relief from their troubles, making this the most excellent way to practice. The temple hosts various Dharma services every month, such as 7-day chanting retreats, Emperor Liang's Jewel Repentance Service, the 8 Precepts and Fasting Ceremony, and many others. The duration is typically 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, or 10 days. People can choose to attend the entire service or parts of it. During the Dhamma service, participants may stay over at the temple. This eliminates the tiring commute. More importantly, it can minimize distraction and help them to concentrate, fully setting the body and mind. This is our longevity hall. There are many red plaques with people's names on them. This is where people offer prayers to the Guanyin Bodhisattva and offering prayers for their family members who are still alive. On the other side of the Buddha hall, we have exactly the same shrine, but contains the yellow plaques with the names of the people who have passed away. This hall is called the Memorial Hall. So we got the living and deceased, the life and death, as a part of the whole journey. We got 2 shrines for people to offer prayer. This is the recitation hall. This hall is where we have our English practice workshop every Saturday from 2:30 to 5. We have an open to public meditation session for English speakers, where people can learn about chanting meditation. We also have discussion session from 4 to 5 p.m., where people can ask questions about Buddhism and practicing in general. On the altar, in the middle is Amitabha Buddha. Amitabha is a Sanskrit word, means infinite light and infinite light. In Buddhism, light is a symbol of wisdom. Amitabha Buddha is the founder of the Western Pure Land. He holds a lotus pestle in his hand, and to his left we have a statue of Guanyin Bodhisattva. Guanyin Bodhisattva holds the vase of purity in the left hand and a willow tree in the right hand. And then to the right of Amitabha Buddha is Great Power Bodhisattva. Together, these 3 sages are known as the 3 sages of Western Pure Land. At the Academy of Western Pure Land, Amitabha is the principal and 2 bodhisattvas are vice principals. Buddhism can be further divided into 8 schools, such as Zen school, the Vinaya school, the Esoteric school, the Pure Land school, and etc. Our temple follows the tradition of Pure Land school. They only differ in the methods they employ to realize those ideas. Ultimately, all these paths lead to one truth. We believe through chanting Amitabha Buddha's name, after we pass away, we can rebirth in his Western Pure Land, and in the Western Pure Land, we can continue to cultivate until we attain Buddhahood. This is the dining hall. It is where meals are served. The temple offers free vegetarian lunches to anyone who comes to participate in the daily services. We hope that by doing so, more people will realize how delicious vegetarian food can be and reap the benefits of adopting a vegetarian diet. Buddhism teaches us to be compassionate toward all living beings, including animals. From the cause and effect standpoint, being vegetarian is the key to a life of health and longevity. Vegetarianism also coincided with modern ideas of how to be healthy and environmentally friendly. When eating a meal at the Buddhist temple, sincerely offer your meal to the service of Buddha. Remain silent while eating, and especially refrain from talking. Recognize the preciousness of your food by being neither over-selective nor wasteful. Behind the recitation hall are the quiet and elegant Eightfold Path Garden, the Pilgrimage Path, and the orchard. They are ideal for calming the mind and strolling meditation. The Pilgrimage Path is where the annual summer pilgrimage takes place during months of June to September every year. Throughout the 3 steps and 1 prostration method of pilgrimage, one can repent one's negative karma. When Venerable Master Miao Lian visited Vancouver in 1998, Devotee followers acquired the 17.8-acre adjacent lot and donated to the temple for the development of the temple. That would provide multi-purpose and comprehensive services that would allow the general public to delve into Buddhism. With 10,000 followers and 20,000 community and school group visitors over the years, the temple has been proposing an expansion on its land in addition to the current facilities since 2002. The expansion proposal has been through many iterations in the past 15 years. We have learned a lot in the process. We try to respond to feeling about the size and location of the new building and work as a team with the neighbors, city staff, and our architect to create this new design. As a result, we have produced a well-thought design proposal, and we hope it will be accepted and embraced by the community. Finally, the expansion plans was presented to the City of Richmond and were given the third reading by Richmond City Council at public hearing on June 20th, 2016. The new buildings would include an 85 feet high main Buddha hall, a dining hall, prayer space, library, and a Buddhism education center. Now we are applying for the building permit, and hopefully it will be approved very soon. Some of you might be curious about the monastic life at our temple. I would like to share some with you. The resident monks and nuns at our temple wake up at 3:30 a.m. and sleep at 10 p.m. every day. We uphold the monastic precepts and follow a vegetarian diet. Monastics at our temple follow a simple, tranquil lifestyle. We don't watch TV. We don't go to movies and concerts or restaurants. We seldom go out except some medical appointments. The temple also provides some education programs. We also offer classes for children, teenagers, and adults to increase their knowledge of Buddhism. Meditation workshops are held for English speakers every Saturday afternoon. This workshop focuses on chanting, meditation, and discussion on Pure Land teachings. For teenagers, we have male Buddhist youth classes and female Buddhist youth classes. Focus on activities that help them develop good affinities with other people, as well as on the recitation of sutras and the enhancement of their virtuous roots. For Buddhist children from age 6 to 12, we have Buddhist children class. There are classes in both Chinese and English to help the children have better sense of morality and better study habits so that they become good children in the family and good citizens in the society. Counseling services. Buddhist practice does not happen in the Buddha hall, but also in everyday life. If you can apply the Dharma to your words, actions, and interactions with others, you will be at ease. This is the most effective way to solve your troubles. Many people come to the temple for hoping to find help in dealing with difficulties in their lives. Masters and volunteers will provide counseling from a Buddhist point of view so that everyone can eliminate their worries and attain peace in both body and mind. End-of-life prayer. We especially train and organize an end-of-life praying group for volunteers to serve the Great Vancouver population. Whether it is in the middle of night or freezing cold weather, as long as you make a phone call, they will immediately rush to the hospital or home. Families are very grateful for this, and many of them will therefore begin to believe in Buddhism. We are the sole harbor that people can rely on at their most vulnerable moment. Lingyan Mountain Temple displays classic Chinese palatial architecture. It demonstrates the beauty of Eastern art and Buddhist culture. It is
like a pure land on earth, with traditional forest monastery style of diligent practice that is inspiring purification. The temple is open every day to the public. Visitors from around the world can come to offer incense, pray, and chant. They can also participate in various educational and volunteer programs, simply visit and sightseeing, or engage in academy research. We have visitors from schools, universities, elder homes, academic institutions, government agencies, community associations, religious groups, and many more. The number of visitors increase year after year. Up to now, we have already exceeded 590 groups with more than 22,000 visitors, including people from schools, associations, media, elder homes, and other institutions. We will design the tour according to different requirements of each group. We will provide detailed explanation and answer any questions, as well as arrange group lunches here. Volunteer guides will provide explanations so that visitors can gain a thorough understanding of Buddhist philosophy and Eastern culture. Community service. A part of community, we are always mindful of people and things around us. We hope that our presence will benefit more people. We actively provide various services to the community, such as assisting community residents in maintaining a clean environment by organizing volunteers to clean streets, raking the leaves for our neighbors in fall, and opening our beautiful gardens for public use. Charity work. This is one of the founding purposes of the temple. So over the years, we have been actively engaged in this work. We have repeatedly donated to the Richmond Hospital, Richmond Food Bank, BC Children's Hospital. We have also donated to the country, which has natural disasters through Tzu Chi Compassion Relief Association, Red Cross, and other institutions. Our founding elder, Venerable Master Miao Lian, he was born in China in 1922 and entered the monkhood at the age of 9. At 20, he took bishop precepts and was ordained at the Baohua Mountain Temple in Nanjing. He then went to the Pure Land Linear Mountain Temple in Suzhou to receive Orthodox monastic training. At the age of 28, he withdrew for 20 years into the Nantao Island and Castle Peak Hermitage in Hong Kong. During his 20 years of seclusion, he practiced 20 sections of the Pratutpana Samadhi. This difficult ascetic practice required the practitioner to forego sleep together, eat one meal a day, and be constantly meditating through prostration, walking, or sitting. Each session of Pratutpana Samadhi lasts for 90 days, and our Venerable Master Miao Lian undertook this practice 20 times. In 1975, he traveled to Taiwan to publish the Mahaprajna Paramita Sastra. While teaching the Dharma in Taiwan, he vowed to build a monastery that would reproduce traditional Chinese Buddhism in Taiwan and revive the monastic lineage. In 1984, he initiated construction of Taiwan Linyanshan Temple, a spiritually inspiring and majestic monastery dedicated to training the Sangha and delivering all sentient beings from suffering. This is the first overseas branch of Linear Mountain Temple, officially inaugurated in 1999. Additional branches were later established in Los Angeles, Australia, and other regions throughout Taiwan. On June 25, 2008, at the age of 87, our Venerable Master and Teacher entered Nirvana in a state of tranquility. Although we miss him greatly, we realize that his spirit lies on his teachings, and we will work hard today to spread those teachings. Now I would like to introduce our mother temple. The Lingyan Mountain Temple was founded in Taiwan in 1986 by Venerable Master Miaolian. Situated in the picturesque town of Puli, the Taiwan Lingyan Mountain Temple became the first and the central branch of Lingyan monastery around the world. Modeled after the tradition of Suzhou Lingyan Mountain Temple, a renowned Pure Land monastery that abides strictly by Patriarch Yin Guang's teachings. Since its inauguration, Taiwan Lingyan Mountain Temple has regularly held monthly retreat and large-scale Dharma events to guide practitioners on paths to Buddhahood. And now I would like to introduce the initiation of Lingyan Mountain Temple, Canada. It all started when Buddhist practitioners in Canada who deeply appreciate the great compassion and vow of Venerable Master Miaolian in building temples to educate and train monastics, decided to build a branch temple in Canada so as to provide a facility for practitioners to learn and practice Buddhism. It is through the tremendous hard work and contribution from local practitioners, including the donation of 5 acres land in 1993, that the Lingyan Mountain Temple Canada eventually was constructed. In September 1994, the abbot conducted the ground purification ceremony for the temple. In 1995, the abbot appointed 2 nuns from Taiwan to come to Richmond to preach the Dharma as well as to be in charge of planning of the construction of the Phase 1 of Lingyan Mountain Temple. In February 1998, the construction of Phase 1, the main Buddha Hall, began. Phase 1 completed in 1999. We have the main Buddha Hall, the Longevity Hall, the Memorial Hall, the kitchen, the dining hall, and the sweetie room. Phase 2 completed in 2002. We have the recitation hall, Guanyin gazebo, information center, conference room, library, and dormitories. Now I would like to introduce our abbot, Venerable Master Zhichen. Venerable Master Zhichen was born in 1978 in Taiwan. He entered monastic life in 1987 under Venerable Master Miaolian of Taiwan Lingyan Mountain Temple. In 2002, he took the full monastic precepts at Sun Moon Temple. Soon after, he went to study under Venerable Master Wu Ming of Haimin Temple. In 2011, he established the Pure Land Temple in Taiwan. Venerable Master Zhichen has taken on the mission of Venerable Master Miaolian by propagating the Pure Land Dharma method. In particular, he has done extensive research on Buddhist ceremonies and chanting. His hard work and natural talents in these areas have earned him tremendous respect from Buddhists in Taiwan. He continues to propagate the Dharma, hosting water and land Dharma service, short-term monastic retreats, and other major Buddhist ceremonies around the world, in places such as China, the United States, and Southeast Asia. On September 14, 2019, under the support and anticipation of the Sangha group and followers, Venerable Master Zhichen officially became the abbot of Lingyan Mountain Temple, Canada. He will work hard to carry on Venerable Master Miaolian's compassionate vow to build monasteries and guide sentient beings. That's all the brief introduction of Lingyan Mountain Temple. I hope all of you have the chance to come visit the temple after the temple reopens in the future. Amitabha Buddha. Now, Master Shoubao will give you a brief introduction of Buddhism.
Buddhist nun at the Yin Mountain Temple. This is our Eightfold Path garden for those of you who haven't been here before. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations for taking refuge in the Three Treasures, and I would like to give a little introduction on what it means to take refuge. First of all, we can compare it to coming home. So some people, when they're young, they might get into a fight with their parents, or they might not like their teachers at school, and they decide to go out and live on their own. And after a while, they struggle, they encounter some hardships, and they decide that they want to go back home. And at that point, their parents will welcome them, and they will find all the love and care that they had before. And so in taking refuge in the Three Treasures, you're coming back to your Buddhist home. And this is like your sanctuary. And you are taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So you might be wondering what the Three Treasures are. The Buddha is referring mostly to Shakyamuni Buddha, but also to all the Buddhas in the 10 directions. The Dharma is what he taught us, the teachings that he expounded during his lifetime. And the Sangha are the monastic practitioners who practice according to the Dharma and also are responsible for propagating the teachings in this world. I'm here to give you an introduction to Buddhism. So let's get right into it. Today we are going to learn some basic Buddhist principles. We will learn how we can use these principles and apply them to everyday life and see how they motivate us to be the best we can be. We will learn some very simple Buddhist methods that we can apply to our everyday lives. And we will learn about the meaning of some common symbols used in Buddhism. So what exactly is Buddhism? Buddhism is just the art of being a person. It means in your words, maintain good faith. In your actions, merit respect. You have to practice what you preach. And in your actions, start out by respecting yourself. The first step to Buddhahood is to learn to be a person. The fundamental condition for being a person is to secure your foundation in principles. Being good to your parents and obeying your teachers and elders are just a couple of examples. So the Venerable Master Xuanhua once said, in order to be a person, speak earnestly and with truth. He said to respect yourself. Don't look down on what you do. Don't preserve a pessimistic attitude towards yourself. Because if you slight yourself and you do cheap, lazy, unworthy things, then there will be many things that you cannot accomplish. Another very well-known patriarch in Buddhism, the 13th patriarch of the Pure Land School, his name was Patriarch Yinguang. He not only propagated Buddhist principles, but he also taught lay practitioners to be dutiful in their human relations and moral ethics, and eliminate bad thoughts and be sincere. He taught us to refrain from any unwholesome deeds and only engage in wholesome ones. The Patriarch Yinguang not only reprinted Buddhist books to distribute to people, but he also reprinted books that promoted secular virtues. So you might be thinking, why did a Buddhist monk want to spend time printing secular books to give away to people? It was because if people do not fulfill their human duties, it would be difficult for them to cultivate Buddhism. So by encouraging them to read about secular virtues, they would learn to follow moral ethics. Then it would be easier for them to practice Buddhism. It is difficult for people who lack in their knowledge and virtuous roots to succeed in their cultivation in this lifetime. That is an excerpt from the teachings of our Venerable Master Miao Lian. So So a common question that people ask is the Buddha a god? So we just explained that if we can perfect the way of a human, we can easily become a Buddha. So that's why when people ask, is the Buddha a god? The answer is no, because he became a Buddha by becoming an awakened person. Once the Buddha was asked if he was a god, and the Buddha replied that no, he was not a god. Then they asked, was he an angel? No. A spirit? No. Then what was he? The Buddha replied that he was awakened. The Buddha did not claim to be a god, the child of a god, or even the messenger of a god. Since the Buddha, by his own assertion, is not a god, we do not worship him. We respect and are grateful to him for teaching us many different methods to help us find a way to be liberated from the cycle of birth and death, and for helping us to become perfectly enlightened, just like him. Well, isn't the Buddha your God? Some might ask. So this is what sets Buddhism apart as a religion, because when people ask, isn't Buddha your version of a god? Well, the answer is no again. Because where most religions believe in my God alone is true, and they take to know and love and serve that one God as the ultimate state, Buddhism says that all beings have the Buddha nature and all can become Buddhas. So in that way, there are infinite Buddhas, and we are all Buddhas. So now we will introduce the Buddha and his life story. The Buddha is our teacher. There are many Buddhas, but Shakyamuni Buddha is the one who introduced Buddhism in this world that we live in. He was born as Siddhartha Gautama in Lumbini, which is present-day Nepal, 3,000 years ago, as the prince of the ancient Shaka kingdom in Kapilavastu. When he was growing up, he was just like any other child in his circumstances. He grew up under his father's arrangements and was quite happy to go through all the training that a prince was supposed to go through in those days. However, as he matured, he started to think about his life. He realized that life was not as constantly pleasant as he was made to believe. This was because his father, King Suddhodana, was informed by a sage that his son would either become the greatest of wise men or he would become a great king. Of course, being the king wanted his son to follow in his own footsteps and become a king. So he insulated Siddhartha from seeing any kind of suffering. Siddhartha's life in the palace was perfect. He was prevented from seeing anything unpleasant. He did not know of anyone who was sick or anyone who was dying. Servants got switched out when they aged, so he did not know anything about old age and the suffering that goes with that. But the prince still managed to realize on his own that there are so many things that we cannot control, including accidents, illnesses, and other unfortunate events. Well, how did he discover that? This was because when he was 29 years old, the prince ventured out of the palace and encountered an old man, a man suffering from illness, and also a decaying corpse. He was deeply depressed by what he saw. And then finally he met with a monastic practitioner and was inspired to overcome the sufferings of aging, sickness, and death through spiritual practice. He realized that he would not find the solutions to these problems while living in the palace. So he decided to leave the palace and began his cultivation. He practiced under various teachers and he mastered meditation. But because he was not satisfied with his path, he moved on. He tried to find enlightenment through extremely harsh practices and self-deprivation. After almost starving himself to death, Siddhartha collapsed in a river and nearly drowned. At that point, he realized that it was time to reconsider his path. This was when he discovered the middle way. This is the moderation between self-indulgence and self-deprivation. He accepted some milk and rice pudding from a village girl, and he regained his strength. He started to contemplate and look deep within as he sat in deep meditation under the Bodhi tree. After 49 days of meditation, he attained enlightenment. The Buddha shared his wisdom throughout all of India, and his teachings continue to be passed on and benefit people even today. So what exactly did the Buddha teach? After becoming enlightened, the Buddha taught us many things, and a lot of his teachings were revolutionary in his time. A very brief summary of the Buddha's main beliefs. First of all, this idea that all sentient beings are equal, and the idea that we all have this tremendous potential to become Buddhas and to find absolute happiness. And of course, this concept of compassion, which means ridding others of suffering and bringing them joy. So first, let's explain what we mean by all sentient beings are equal. What brings us together and makes us all equal is our Buddha nature. Some people might believe that we are originally bad or sinful, but the Buddha said that we are inherently good. Although we appear different, our original nature is actually the same. So we are all the same, and yet different. What is the same is our true nature, what we call our Buddha nature. Buddhists believe that we are all inherently pure, genuine, blissful, and still. The belief that all living beings are innately good is what sets Buddhism apart as a religion. The fact that all living beings are innately good. We have simply lost sight of that and have been neglecting our true nature. We have been lost in pursuit of secular pleasures and forgetting that we have this most precious treasure. Now that we have been reminded of how precious we actually are, we can start to turn around and rediscover this priceless original nature. So now by starting your Buddhist practice, you are taking your first step toward rediscovering your Buddha nature. You will feel the benefits right now in this lifetime and into future lifetimes as well. During one of his lectures, our Venerable Master Miaolian explained an analogy in the sutras that discusses this idea of original nature. He asked the audience at the time to imagine that they each had a ball of dough in their hands. First, he asked them to sculpt a figure of themselves using the dough. Then he asked them to destroy the figure and reshape it into a Buddha statue. Then he explained that the two figures that we needed, one of a sentient being and the other of a Buddha, are an analogy. Even though they are dough figures, the Buddha taught that we should observe the underlying nature of the Dharma realm, since all things are created by our mind. You can knead the dough into statues of humans and Buddhas, but you could also knead the dough into birds, animals, or whatever you decide. It all depends on you. Everything is created by your mind. Whatever causes that you cultivate will lead to corresponding effects. So that's the teachings of our Venerable Master Miao. In this analogy, the dough represents our original nature. So everyone is equal in that we all have the same dough. It's all the same dough, and we all have the same ability to make the dough into whatever shape we would like to create. We are only different because we have sculpted ourselves into different figures. This idea is very empowering because it puts the control back in our own hands. We can create our own experience, and we decide what kind of world we want to live in. In this sense, what the Buddha told us can be called teachings, but I think they are more like psychological tools of liberation. They are psychologically liberating tools and techniques. One of the main teachings of the Buddha right after he attained enlightenment was the Four Noble Truths. These are the truths of the universe that the Buddha realized. The first noble truth is the truth of dissatisfaction, also translated as suffering. All existence in the world we live in is marked by suffering. The second noble truth is the truth of its cause. Suffering is caused by attachments and cravings, also known as afflictions. The third noble truth is that it can be ended. By getting rid of attachments and cravings, one can be liberated from suffering and attain nirvana, which is a state of peace and enlightenment. The fourth noble truth is how you go about ending it. There is a way to achieve this goal by following the discipline known as the Eightfold Path. So in summary, the first noble truth is the truth of suffering. The second noble truth is the truth of the cause of this suffering. The third noble truth is that it can be ended. And the fourth noble truth is how you go about to end it. And that is the Eightfold Path, which is a set of moral principles directing people on how to cultivate. The Eightfold Path includes right views, right thinking, right speech, action, and way of life. This has to do with ethical conduct. Also right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation. And these last three have to do with our mental development. To have right views means we understand karma and the law of cause and effect. We understand the impermanent nature of the world. We realize the Four Noble Truths. And since our views guide our thoughts and actions, right views lead to right thoughts and actions. Right thinking, also known as right intention, is the commitment to ethical and mental self-improvement. This includes the intention to reduce our desires, avoid getting angry, and develop our compassion. Right speech includes four things: not engaging in false speech, slanderous speech, and harsh speech. Harsh speech meaning words that are hurtful to others. And the fourth one is purposeless chatter. Words are very powerful, so we need to pay close attention to our speech. Right action includes not harming or taking the lives of living beings, not taking anything that you have not been given, and not committing sexual misconduct. Instead, we should engage in wholesome actions that lead to wholesome states of mind. The right way of life, also known as right livelihood, means that you should earn your living in a righteous way. Avoid activities that harm other sentient beings, such as dealing in weapons, or anything that involves killing or harming living beings, or selling alcohol and other intoxicants. Right effort means being diligent and persevering in our practice. It means that we need to use our mental energy, which can fuel our self-discipline, honesty, and kindness. Right mindfulness is the mental ability to see things as they are with a clear consciousness. It means having a clear perception that allows us to control where our thoughts go. Right meditation, also known as right concentration, means concentrating on wholesome thoughts and actions. The Buddhist methods for developing right concentration include meditation and recitation of the Buddha's name. So these 8 aspects are not to be seen as a sequence of steps. Rather, they are all closely connected. They are interdependent principles for our ethical and mental development. So, an example given by Venerable Master Xuanhua about the importance of self-awareness. He uses the analogy of a silkworm. So a silkworm wraps himself up and doesn't know it. He dies without knowing he's cut off his own road, just like people who are born and die and never know why. On the other hand, unlike that silkworm who unknowingly wraps himself up and dies, a caterpillar knowingly crawls inside his cocoon to be reborn as a butterfly. So cultivating the way is the same. And by that we mean cultivating the Buddha way, our Buddhist practice. By practicing Buddhism, we can understand what we need to do to fulfill our wishes. People are often very intelligent in secular terms, but we are confused about big questions in life, like why we have been born here in this world and where we will go when we die. We want to be more like the caterpillar who knows what it needs to do to achieve its goal of becoming a beautiful butterfly. Of course, we want to be much more than a butterfly. We want to increase our self-awareness and have ultimate control over our lives. As we start on a Buddhist path to enlightenment, one of the first things to understand is this concept of karma. So what is karma? There's an analogy in the Avatamsaka Sutra, and this is one of the most influential texts in Buddhism, spoken by the Buddha soon after he attained Buddhahood. It was one of the first sutras that he preached. To explain karma, it says, it's just like the seeds planted in a field. The seeds do not know of each other, yet they naturally grow forth by themselves. And the nature of karma is the same. So that's from the Avatamsaka Sutra. So depending on the seeds we plant, we will receive the harvest we deserve. If a farmer, for example, wants to reap a rich harvest, he has to plant the right seeds. He has to have fertile soil. He has to take care of his crops, making sure they get enough water and remove the weeds. And on top of that, the weather needs to cooperate so that they get enough sun and rain to grow. So if we have the intention to do something good, meaning a good seed in this sense, we need to protect and nurture that intention and do the necessary work to make that seed come to fruition. On the other hand, if we have an unwholesome thought or a bad intention, if we can immediately turn around and stop it and not feed it and change the conditions so that it won't continue to grow, as long as we catch ourselves fast enough, that bad seed won't be able to grow. So this idea has to do with repentance, the Buddhist idea of repentance. But keep in mind that the karmic seed is still there. So if you allow yourself to get back into those unwholesome conditions again, then there is, of course, the chance that it will grow again. So planting seeds is a good way to think about this concept of karma. Another way to explain karma is to compare it to a mirror. So it's as if we live in a house of mirrors, some concave, some convex, others bent, tinted, twisted, and warped. Karma works the same way on our minds, shaping and bending them according to the words, thoughts, and deeds we have committed with the mouth, mind, and body. It's just like a pure, bright mirror. Depending on what object stands before it, the different images appear, and the nature of karma is the same. So this analogy of comparing karma to a mirror also comes from the Avatamsaka Sutra. So karma is like a universal law that governs all things. It is a power that no one can overturn or disregard. It's there whether you know about it or not, and whether you believe in it or not. But we shouldn't think of karma as something that controls what we do and tells us what not to do. In fact, there is a kind of freedom that comes from knowing how it works, knowing what results will come from the things that we do. And by keeping our karma pure, we will feel a sense of liberation. Pure karma is liberation. Independence is the fruit of mastering the rules of cause and effect. Venerable Master Xuanhua said, "Take a good look at the life you are living right now. The right now, everyday mind is the past, present, and future. We are now what we did in the past, and we have no other future than the one we are creating in the present." So understanding karma puts us back in control of our lives, and that is true freedom. Freedom is not just being able to do whatever we want. True freedom is within. It's in understanding cause and effect and understanding karma. Freedom is knowing which things tie you up and which things bring peace and liberation. Freedom is just being clear about the causes you plant. Liberation is being clear about karma and very careful about the karma we create, as if crossing an icy stream. Karma makes no exceptions. It never forgets. It treats everybody equally. There are no specials, no favorites, and no number ones. So in the Sutra on Cause and Effect of the Three Periods of Time, it says, even after 100,000 eons, meaning a very long time, the karma you have created is not forgotten. When the proper conditions combine, you still have to undergo the retribution. And that is actually a very well-known quote in Buddhism. So it comes from the Sutra on Cause and Effect of the Three Periods of Time. People make the society, and karma makes the people. The things that happen to us in daily life are the harvest of our past deeds and have nothing to do with fate or God or luck or accident. They have nothing to do with heredity or the stars or the planets. Everything that happens to us comes from the karma that we create. Another quote from the Avatamsaka Sutra. You can see why it's quite an influential text in Buddhism. This is from the 10 Transferences chapter, which says, all in the world, with the many kinds of different karmic retribution, none of it is not completely created by the power of deeds. If one takes away the doing, then all in the world ceases to exist. So the Avatamsaka was translated from Chinese, and this is a very common sentence structure in Chinese to use like a double negative. None of it is not completely created by the power of deeds. So basically, everything in the world is created by the power of our deeds. So this means that we are all deeply connected. As we plant, so we will harvest. Going back to the seed analogy. Once we realize how karma affects us personally, we need to be aware of how what we do affects the people around us. So we can see that good people sometimes suffer the bad harvest of the wicked, and wicked people sometimes enjoy the rich harvest of the good. But good or bad, the point is we are all deeply connected. The poet named John Donne said that no man is an island and no man stands alone. And this is very true. So since we are so deeply connected, when we strive to purify our minds of greed, hatred, and delusion, we are actually helping to eradicate disasters and suffering in the world, and we are contributing to peace and harmony in the world as well. So doing good things gives off positive energy. This good energy reaches all beings and all things naturally and effortlessly. This is because we are all connected. We are all part of one collective, not two. This is why it's important to train ourselves to have positive thoughts and good intentions by cultivating compassion towards everybody. Any ill will or malice that you feel towards others, even if it's justified, however justified it might be, it is ultimately more harmful to your own well-being than to theirs. Next, let's discuss what is samsara. Samsara is a Sanskrit term. It's sometimes translated as transmigration. The original meaning of samsara is flow together. And this is the expression of the ancient Indian idea that all living things repeatedly pass through life and death. Samsara is closely related to karma because our karma determines the world that we live in. Before we have liberated ourselves from birth and death, we remain in samsara. And for unenlightened beings, there are said to be 6 realms that we revolve in depending on our karma. Samsara is like a continuously spinning wheel. Let's take a look at the 6 realms. First, there are the heavens. There are 26 different celestial realms, meaning heavenly realms, and birth in these God realms results from virtuous actions that one performed in this life and in previous lives. So in Buddhism, we believe that there are many gods and that gods are part of this heavenly realm. Heavenly beings live for eons, during which they enjoy immense power and pleasure. Within this realm, every desire is immediately fulfilled. However, in the Sutra of the Past Vows of Earth Store Bodhisattva, it says heaven is merely a spontaneous manifestation of karma and exists only as such. In fact, the heavens are ephemeral. They're not permanent places of abode, and they should not be considered our ultimate goal. In the next highest realm, known in Sanskrit as Asuras, or variously translated as jealous gods, warring gods, or demigods. Although the Asuras enjoy heavenly delight as well, it is not as complete and powerful as in the heavenly realms because they just suffer from a constant sense of inferiority and an ambition to be as divine as those heavenly beings. And next is the human realm, which we are very familiar with. To be born human is the most auspicious and fortunate destiny because the conditions are suitable for connecting with the spiritual path. Positioned between the lower and higher realms, humanity is the sweet spot between agony and ecstasy, which gives us the inspiration to strive for liberation and freedom. For this reason, a human existence is the most precious incarnation of the six realms. To illustrate the extreme difficulty of being reborn in the human realm, the Buddha compared it to the likelihood that a blind sea turtle, who could only surface from the depths of the ocean once every 100 years, would encounter a tree trunk with a hole that was suitable for hiding. The dual endowment of birth as a human being and in a land where the Dharma is preached is extremely rare, and once lost, will take a very, very long time to encounter again. So we are all very lucky. We also have the animal realm. This is also a very familiar realm with us. It's the most self-evident realm due to intersecting with humanity. Animals generally suffer from ignorance and are bound to instinct. Farm animals are born to servitude and slaughter, usually in terrible conditions. Wild animals often live in fear, and their retirement plan is often to be eaten alive. Some animals with lots of blessings may end up as a pampered pet. We also have the hungry ghost realm. Traditionally, the hungry ghost is pictured with a huge belly, but a tiny narrow neck that doesn't allow much of anything to be swallowed. They are constantly obsessed with their endless search for food and drink, but they cannot find a crumb or even a drop, only a hint of tempting smells and colors. This kind of torture makes them feel perpetually powerless. They are constantly running around, looking for things that just don't exist in their realm. Constantly driven by their hunger and thirst, they wander around in a limbo-like state in which they can get no relief. Hungry ghosts remain in their state until their negative karma has been exhausted. And we also have the hell realm. As with heaven, hell is manifested by the karma of the creatures who live there. That is why there are so many different hells. The different hells accord with the various temperaments and mind states of all the various sentient beings. In the Sutra of the Past Vows of Earth Store Bodhisattva, and Earth Store Bodhisattva is a bodhisattva who vowed to save the sentient beings who are suffering in the hells. And so in this sutra on his past vows, he actually explains the hells in quite a lot of detail. And it says, within the three seas are hundreds of thousands of great hells, each one different. There are 18 that are specifically known as the great hells. In succession, there are 500 with unlimited cruel sufferings, and further, there are over 100,000 with limitless sufferings. So now that we know a little bit about the six realms, what does this mean for us as humans? If you can accept that there are, in fact, heavens and hells, you will realize that what they are capable of receiving and understanding is contextualized by their conditions and circumstances. So that's why it's most auspicious to be born as a human being, because a human birth puts you in between two poles. One pole of longing and understanding for something, and the other pole is the understanding of your mutability and your impermanence. And so caught between these two poles, there's a kind of tension to the human condition, that we can't get too lazy because we know our candle's burning And at the same time, we have enough intelligence to know that and ask questions about that and try to change that. So that's why it's considered to be the dynamic good birth, and that's if you use it well. Born into the lower realms like animals or hells, all you can be concerned with is the incredible discomfort and suffering, the grasping for existence, and knowing where the next bite is coming from. You don't have any time to reflect on life. You're driven by the fires of impermanence, craving, and just the necessity of surviving, staying alive. The life of animals, for example, is brutish and short. They're constantly apprehensive and watching all the time, because if they're not looking for something to get, then they're going to be gotten. When storms and rain come, they have to take care of themselves. They don't have time to read sutras or practice Buddhism. But in the higher realms, like the heavenly realms, it's really comfortable. There's lots of blessings and lots of enjoyment, and you don't worry about suffering and impermanence because you become so laid back and so lax and sloppy. Being in the heavens keeps you from having that uneasiness that pushes you forward. But being in the other realms keeps you from having the space to think and create and wonder and practice. So we know that the things we do create positive or negative karma, and that influences what happens to us. So now that we're lucky enough to be reborn as human beings, what can we do to accumulate more positive karma? How do we make the best use of our lives as humans? One of the things we can do, a Buddhist method, is to consider adopting a vegetarian diet. So what does vegetarianism have to do with our Buddhist practice? Nowadays, vegetarianism is quite popular for health reasons and fitness reasons, but what does it have to do with Buddhism? Let's look at it from a Buddhist standpoint. In Buddhism, all sentient beings are equal in that they all have this intrinsic Buddha nature. So that means that even animals are future Buddhas. They're just in an animal form right now. Remember how all living beings are deeply related and connected. Who can say where we have been in the past and where we will be in the future? Nothing is permanent. In the sutras, it says that all beings in the 6 realms we just talked about might have been my parents at some point in this cycle of samsara. Not only that, but all earth and water has served as the substance of one of my bodies. All elemental air and fire has previously sustained the life of one of my bodies. So this is also another Chinese idea, this idea of the 4 elements: earth, water, air, and heat or fire. That's what that's talking about. Basically, the animals that we see in a previous life could have been our parents or our relatives or people who have been kind to us. When we think of it that way, great compassion is just being one with everyone. The heart of great compassion is just simple kindness and goodness shown to all beings. If I am good to all beings, then they will learn goodness and be good to others in turn. But if I am bad to beings, they will harbor hatred and resentment and will pass that on. So being good to all living beings is just the same as taking care of ourselves. Our minds should be full of love and compassion, and we should show our love and compassion for all forms of life. So why not give it a try, even if it's just for a day or even just one meal? It will help you build your compassion one day at a time or one meal at a time. So what else can we do to build up our positive karma? Another Buddhist method is to chant the Buddha's name. So let's get into a little introduction to Pure Land Buddhism. And that is the main method of practice at Lingyan Mountain Temple. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, it says, the Buddha knows the thoughts of living beings and their natures are all different. According to what each should rightly receive, in that way he speaks the Dharma. So almost all of Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings were the result of him being asked a question. In a very rare exception, he initiated the teaching about Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land without being prompted. The Buddha knew that after he left this world, in our day and age, it would be extremely difficult to become enlightened through our own efforts, understand emptiness and ultimate truth, especially within the time we have in this lifetime and considering the little time that we actually spend on our practice. He realized it is very difficult to stop creating negative karma, but chanting the Buddha's name is easy. The Buddha's name is the distillation of all wisdom and pure compassion. It is the seed of enlightenment. Even if you do it poorly, it still accrues merit and blessings while helping to mitigate past negative karma. If you can sincerely chant the Buddha's name with the honest desire to escape the 6 realms of existence, that is all the training you need to achieve enlightenment. Another quote from the Avatamsaka Sutra, he praises Chan Samadhi, and he meaning the Buddha, praises Chan Samadhi for those with scattered minds. The stupid ones hear wisdom praised. For unkind ones, he praises kindness and pity. And for the angry ones, he praises great compassion. This is from the Bodhisattvas Ask for Clarification chapter. So it is just like food. Some people prefer salty food. Some people have a sweet tooth. Some people like sour flavors, some bitter or spicy. There are 84,000 different Dharma flavors, and whichever one suits you is the best. It is just like when different people look at the same situation. There are no 2 people who see the situation the same. Their reactions are as different as people's hair color and their fingerprints. So the Buddha understood this, and he offered something for everyone. If you were lucky enough to be alive in his time and personally receive his teaching, he would know exactly which method was right for you and would teach you that method. As for us living in a world after the Buddha entered nirvana, he left us with the Pure Land method, which he explained in numerous sutras as being suitable for everyone, regardless of their capacities. There are just 3 necessities for practicing the Pure Land method, and those are faith, vows, and practice. Faith can mean not pushing the way and not forcing or seeking results overnight. Faith is the source of the way, the mother of merit and virtue. It nurtures and raises all wholesome dharmas. It cuts through the net of doubts and leaves the flow of love. It opens up the highest road to nirvana. This is from the Worthy Leader chapter of Avatamsaka Sutra. The second necessity, vows, are the guidelines to aid our cultivation. As an old monk once said, the very best vow is to vow to be reborn in Amitabha's Pure Land. Because when the fires of the Kalpa burn up the world, even the heavens in the formless realm don't escape disasters. But in the Western Pure Land, there are no disasters, and you can come back to save boundless living beings in the Saha world. So this goes back to what we said about the heavenly realm being not the ultimate goal, because it is not permanent. It doesn't, it's not free from disasters, like it says in this quote. The third necessity, practice, simply means to chant the Buddha's name. When we first hear about the benefits of chanting Amitabha Buddha's name, it is like being told that invisible bricks will fall from the sky and land in a way that they assemble themselves into a house that only you can see. It's quite unbelievable. Upon first hearing of such a thing, most people will dismissively wave it away. It's beyond their comprehension how such a thing could be possible, so they refuse to accept it without a second thought. But what we're saying is blind faith is not required. We're not asking you to have blind faith in the method. Only a willingness to challenge your fundamental assumptions regarding the nature of reality. Try putting aside your doubts for a moment and see what's possible. If we return our lives in respect to Amitabha Buddha and recite his name constantly with one mind, at death we will not be confused or scattered. We will quickly be reborn in the land of ultimate bliss. Why is that? Because Amitabha, on the causal ground, was a bhikshu who made 48 vows. He was determined to cross living beings over from this world of suffering to the world of pure joy. So causal ground goes back to what we just talked about, cause and effect. So the seed that he planted on the causal ground. And the vow that he made was to cross living beings over from this world of suffering into a world of pure joy. This is a quote from Venerable Master Shenhua. The first necessity of faith means, of course, having faith in Amitabha Buddha, but even more importantly, this method requires us to have faith in the strength of our own minds. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, it says, "The strength of the mind and what it thinks gives birth to all kinds of dharmas. They quickly pass away without an instant's thought, without an instant's pause. In thought after thought, that's how it is." That's from the Avatamsaka Sutra. Venerable Master Miaolin also told us, "Our original nature is our ultimate treasure that is equal to and does not differ from that of the Buddhas." What is Buddha? Mind is Buddha. What is mind? Buddha is mind. Buddhahood is attained through the mind. Our mind is Buddha, and their nature is the same. By planting the seeds in your own mind through chanting the Buddha's name, you subtly change the conditions around you in such a way that you are naturally propelled towards enlightenment and away from the three lower realms. Let me tell you a story that illustrates the power of the mind. This is the story of a great master named Yuan Xiao. In Korea, there was a patriarch of the Huayan school named Great Master Yuan Xiao. He went to China during the Tang Dynasty to study the Dharma. On the way there with his fellow practitioner, he got lost. It was dark, and in those days, there were no such things as flashlights on your cell phone. They were wandering around in the dark, and they got very hungry and thirsty. Suddenly, they stepped onto what sounded like a pond of water under their feet, and so they were so thirsty that they immediately bent down and started drinking the water. Both of them thought that it was the best tasting water that they'd ever tasted. It was sweeter than any of the water back at their temple. So they drank to their fill since they had no food, and they were so exhausted at this point that they fell asleep by the pond. The next day, they woke up and wanted to get a drink of that water again. But they took one look at the water and they both jumped. It turned out that there was a dead body in the water. And not only that, but there were maggots crawling all over it. Both of them started vomiting on the spot, to the point that they were both dehydrated. At that moment, Great Master Yuan Shao realized the meaning of the line from the Aptamsaka Sutra, which says, "Contemplate the nature of the Dharma realm. Everything is made from the mind alone." So the day before, without seeing the dead body, he thought that the water was the best tasting water he had ever drank. But now that he saw the dead body, his mind attached significance to what he saw, and he started feeling nauseous. But was the water any different from what it was the day before? It was exactly the same water. So why did he feel so differently then? He realized it was all due to the powerful impact of his mind and his thoughts. And from this example, we can ask ourselves, who gave us all the happiness and suffering that we experience in our lives? There is no fixed value to anything, no fixed standard that we can measure up to. It all depends on our attitude, the attitude with which we look at any situation, and our mindset that we hold in doing any task. If we take a look at the things we listen to during the day, our energy is constantly flowing and mixing with different sounds in the world. It's always flowing outward. People's voices, the different whines and roars of cars and buses, ocean tides or bird songs, or wind in the power lines. Our ears are too busy and they drain our energy, taking away from our fullness. Try to bring back that energy. Give the ear a sound to fix on. Namo Amitofo. Keep it busy listening to the pure names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Make it the ear's job to hold the sound. Return the hearing and listen to the self-nature until the nature accomplishes the supreme way. This is a very well-known quote from the Shurangama Sutra, basically telling us to gather back our energy. Don't let our energy flow outward all the time. Return the hearing, listen to ourselves. So let's try chanting for a few minutes.
Namo
So now we will get into some recommendations for starting your Buddhist practice. So remember that understanding and practice are equally important. So after taking refuge, we should learn about the Buddha Dharma, and we should also start putting it into practice. Practice and understanding mutually interact. The more you practice, the more you understand. And the more you understand, the more you want to practice. As soon as one opens a single door to the good, all the other 84,000 pure Dharma doors seem to open by themselves. In single-mindedness, there is efficacy. In diversity, you just become scattered. Venerable Master Hsuan said, of the 84,000 Dharma doors, whatever is most opportune for you is number one. So don't be greedy, don't bite off more than you can chew, for you may not even digest the material. So just to explain, 84,000 is a number commonly seen in Buddhist texts and verses. It is not meant as an exact number. In fact, there are many more than 84,000 Dharma methods. And there are as many Dharma methods as there are types of sentient beings. And we all know that everyone is very unique and there are countless types of sentient beings. So in the same way, there are countless Dharma methods. As one who concocts an efficacious medicine, but whose own sickness goes uncured, when one does not cultivate the Dharma, mere study is just like this. And this is another quote from Avatamsaka Sutra. So what we're trying to say here is that there is a Dharma method for everybody, and we need to figure out the one that is right for us, and we need to focus on that. Like any other knowledge or skill, you need to be focused. By continuously practicing this Dharma method, it will become firmly planted in your mind. By constant repetition, you can train your mind so that when you run into unpleasant circumstances, you will know exactly what to do and you will not be overcome by whatever difficulties you may be facing. Of course, this comes from constant practice, year in and year out. However, we do not have a lot of time to spend on our practice. If you take a look at how you spend your day, 1/3 of the time is spent sleeping, 1/3 of our life is in childhood, 1/3 of our life is in our old age. So we really only have 1/3 left over, and that 1/3 is spent on things like eating, showering, and doing other work. We do not have much time at all before our lives come to an end. Sooner or later, we have to face death. That is one of the reasons why the Buddha taught us the most simple method of chanting the Buddha's name. This is why he recommended this method for anyone. To avoid death, we need to seek rebirth in the Pure Land. In the Pure Land, we will have infinite life. We will not have to face death. We will have time to diligently work on our practice. But we do not need to wait until we get there to experience the benefits of this practice. By chanting the Buddha's name, our afflictions are naturally mitigated, while wisdom, patience, and compassion are increased. This is an organic process that happens without the active attention of the practitioner. No special act of willpower is required beyond this simple motivation to chant Amitofo periodically throughout your day. If your circumstances do not allow, you do not need to set aside a particular time in your day to practice. You can chant anytime. You can chant even silently in your head when you're driving, when you're walking, shopping, waiting for an elevator, or cleaning your house. In this way, the practice works around your life rather than you having to work your life around the practice. If your circumstances do allow, you can set aside a few minutes each day to sit down and chant, and I actually recommend that you do this. One thing you can do when you're chanting is to use chanting beads. And these are beads that you can use to keep track of the number of recitations that you do. So what you can do is hold the beads in one hand, place your thumb on the starting bead, which is either a different color or a different size from the rest. So this one is just a little bit bigger. And what you do is you use your thumb and you advance one bead at a time. Each bead can represent 3 or 5 or 10 recitations of the Buddha's name. So you want to be counting your recitations as you chant. So for example, if I wanted to start with 3, I could say, Amitofo, 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 and then I'd advance one. Amitofo, 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 and I advance another one. And so in that way, you keep your mind focused on your chanting. So you don't want to just be mindlessly advancing beads. And that's a very good way to keep count of your recitations as well. You can chant out loud or silently. It's also acceptable to chant when you are in the washroom or if you're lying in bed. But in those situations, do not chant out loud. You can just chant silently in your mind. You will find that regular chanting meditation will leave you feeling calm and at ease, and also improve your concentration, which will help a lot with whatever work you're doing or your studies. Also, take some time to recite the Sutra of 8 Awakenings and the Sutra of Auspiciousness. These videos are available online on our LYMT Canada website. These sutras offer unique insight into the human condition and the impermanence of the world, which is especially relevant in midst of the unsettledness in the world we live in today. Let's talk a little bit about applying Buddhist practice in our lives, especially the importance of persistence in our practice. So during the refuge-taking ceremony, the Venerable Abbot mentioned how Buddhist practice can help us reduce our afflictions and our bad habits. Here are some further teachings on the topic. In our practice, it is important to be persistent. If we get lazy all the time, it would be like drilling wood in the old days to make a fire. If we stop before we get any sparks, we will never create a fire. We need to reach a certain temperature before we can stop. If we keep stopping because our arms are tired or sore, then the temperature will fall and we will never get a fire. To be persistent in our practice, we need to continuously be mindful of the Dharma method we are practicing. So now that we have this initial spark, we need to keep it going. The Buddha gave an analogy that a tiny stream of water that flows continuously will eventually be able to penetrate a rock. Persistence is the most important part of diligent practice. Persistent practice will help us reduce our afflictions and bad habits. We've all at some point thought to ourselves, I want to get rid of a particular bad habit. But when we actually try to give it up, it is extremely hard. Why is that? It's because these bad habits, meaning the ones that we find hardest to get rid of, have been with us for a very long time, stretching beyond this lifetime. So back to many, many lifetimes ago in our cycle of samsara. They are just like scabs on a wound. Of course, it hurts to pick off that scab. When we want to get rid of bad habits, our self-attachment will tell us, no, you don't need to give up on that. And when we continually listen to that voice, then we continue to be boxed in by our habitual energies. When people want to share the Buddha Dharma with you, you'll be inclined to not open the door and not let it come near you. Take a close look at the karma we create every day. Think about, how do I communicate with others? First, understand your intentions, and then think about how that affects how you talk with other people. You can think about, are my actions hurtful to other people? Are my actions harmful to myself? If you can calm your mind and closely examine those things, you will realize where you will be going in the future. A lot of people are afraid of death. Why? It is because they do not know where they're going after death. Reducing our afflictions and bad habits are often compared to treating an illness. There are many things that can get in our way, a major one being our attachments, especially this attachment to the self. Attachments have momentum. They feel comfortable to us. Changing bad habits is hard work. Change requires constant, steady pressure on the sore spot, applying good Dharma medicine with patient courage until the new proper view replaces the old way. Lift the bandages too soon or leave the habit alone, and the illness returns. So in the Avatamsaka Sutra, it says, he vows that all beings become great kings of medicine, who always remove the many sicknesses and do not allow them to recur. This is from the 10 Transferences chapter. So sometimes, though, we reach a point where we feel like we can't go on. Faith wavers and it looks like there's no way. Maybe it's a state of mind or thoughts of doubt, tests of willpower, tests of sincerity, and experiences that are more treacherous and grueling than any of the elements. I read a story once about a farmer who took a lantern and went out to check his cows in the midst of a big snowstorm. On the way back from the barn, the wind blew out his light. The drifting snow had covered up his tracks. So although his house was less than 75 yards away from the barn, he got lost. He walked and walked, then gave up and lay down in the snowdrift. They found him the next morning frozen to death, only a few feet from his back door. A cultivator's door is the mind that never lies down, the thought that dwells nowhere. The single thought to go on when you feel like you can't go on anymore releases enough energy to go on forever. So even though disciplined cultivation is like hard work, it is like gardening. It's like tending to blooms in the mind's greenhouse garden. The fun follows the work. Next, we will talk a little bit about Buddhist etiquette. So first, we will watch a video, an English version of a video on Buddhist etiquette and some demonstrations on that.
Etiquette is a crucial part of our everyday life. It is also a critical element of Buddhism. By learning proper Buddhist etiquette, we can express our respect to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Good etiquette also helps us regulate our bodies and minds and improve our concentration, making it an essential part of our Buddhist practice. Conducting ourselves in a dignified manner will win us the respect and admiration of others, therefore making it an expedient method of guiding sentient beings. For these reasons, people who are beginning their Buddhist practice should start by learning the basic Buddhist etiquette, including how to press your palms together, rest your palms, do a half bow, prostrate to the Buddha, and kneel properly. We will now explain them one by one. 1. Pressing your palms together. This is the most basic gesture in Buddhism that is used to show your respect. You simply press your palms together. Areas to pay attention to. Make sure there is no gap between your fingers. Your fingertips should be pointing straight up toward the direction of your chin. Your shoulders should be relaxed, with your arms and thumbs closely against your body. Your hands should be at the level of your chest. 2. Resting your palms. Place your hands flat on top of each other with palms facing up. Your right hand should be on top of your left hand. The tips of your thumbs should touch each other. Your hands should be closely against your body at the level of your waist. 3. Half bow. Start by pressing your palms together. Bend forward 90 degrees and place your palms into the resting position at the same time. To rise, extend your index fingers and form a triangle with your thumbs. Then raise your hands up between your eyebrows without touching the area between your eyebrows. Lower your hands and return to the palm resting position. 4. Kneeling. Keep your palms pressed together. Kneel with both knees on the cushion, keeping your body straight. 5. Prostrating. Stand with your palms pressed together. Make sure you are standing up straight. Place your feet slightly apart, forming a V shape. Bend forward and kneel down. Place your right hand on the cushion with your fingers pointing slightly inward. Place your left hand on the cushion, approximately half a hand's length ahead of your right hand. Move your right hand forward to be in line with the left. Touch your head to the cushion. Make a fist with both hands and turn them over. Your hands should be in front of your head. The soles of your feet should be facing up. Rest your body on your legs and let your chest touch your thighs. Make a fist with both hands and turn them over. Move your body slightly forward so that the soles of your feet face down. Move your right hand back and use it to support yourself back up. Use your legs to help you, but do not move your feet. After standing up, press your palms back together. 6. Prostrating 3 times. Stand with your palms pressed together. Half bow. Prostrate 3 times. Half bow.
So why did we have to learn about Buddhist etiquette? It's actually a very important part of Buddhist practice. The way we do anything is the way we do everything. It comes down to working on our attention to detail and paying attention to and being very aware and very mindful of what we're doing. A great person becomes that way, starting from the smallest, subtlest, most unnoticeable point. When no one is watching, we should still follow the rules. This means not forsaking the roots and grabbing for the branches. All the time, everywhere, walking, dressing, or eating, don't be careless or sloppy. This is a quote from Venerable Master Shenhua. So in practicing the Dharma, it goes to all the very basic things like eating, sleeping, and wearing clothes. In these things, you have to follow the rules. You can't be confused or casual about it. I've noticed myself that when I participate in the Buddhist ceremonies here at the temple, if I don't sit up straight or my spine is crooked, then I get tired more easily, and that definitely affects my concentration and the ability to engage in the ceremony. So I try to be mindful of maintaining proper posture whenever I can. So another purpose of Buddhist etiquette is to show our respect to the three treasures. First of all, how do we show our respect to the Buddha? And this is a picture from the recitation hall in Lingyan Mountain Temple. These are the three sages of the West. When you see a statue or a painting of a Buddha, you should do a half bow or at least press your palms together. If you're in a temple or you have your own shrine at home, you should prostrate to the Buddha. And when you prostrate, try to do it at a steady pace, not too fast or too slow. And you can also offer incense if the environment allows you to. You should not place the images, statues, or any other representations of the Buddha in unclean places. This is why we don't encourage people to take pictures of Buddha statues at the temple, since you will most likely bring your camera or your phone into the washroom at some point, and you might forget about what photos are in it. So remember, we are showing respect not for the statue itself, but for what it represents. And like we said, it represents the most precious Buddha nature that's within all of us. So we want to always be mindful of that. How do we show our respect to the Dharma treasure? This is inside of our main Buddha hall during one of our repentance ceremonies. So all the little red and yellow cloths you see, under those are the repentance texts. So any text that has to do with the Dharma, like, for example, sutras or repentance scriptures, or even just Buddhist books, those are considered Dharma texts. You can show respect for Dharma texts by not holding them with unclean hands. When you are holding a sutra, hold it with both hands and keep it at the level of your chest. When reading sutras, you should wear your black robe if you have one. The black robe, or the haiqing in Chinese, you will notice that the sleeves are very loose and wide, symbolizing freedom and ability to be accepting to all kinds of things. When you're finished with reading a sutra, you can close it when you're finished, or if you want to take a break or if someone starts talking to you, you should close the sutra instead of talking over it. So how do we show our respect to the Sangha? You can show respect for the Sangha simply by pressing your palms together and saying Amitofo. You can stand up if you are sitting and let them go first if you come across each other in passing. You can address Sangha members as Master, followed by their name. For those who have been practicing for a long time and are very accomplished in their practice and in their virtues, you can say Venerable Master. For example, we say Venerable Master Miaolian or Venerable Master Shenhua. If someone is specifically trained in Buddhist teachings and they spend their time guiding people in Buddhist practice, you can say Elder Dharma Master or just Dharma Master followed by their name. So the key point is just don't directly call their name. And now we will explain the meaning of some common symbols that you will see in Buddhism. First of all, what is the significance of Buddhist statues and images? The image of the Buddha symbolizes our true nature, that same nature of the Buddhas, the Buddha nature. The images of the Bodhisattvas symbolize understanding and practice. What is the meaning of the lights in the Buddha hall? Lights symbolize wisdom and brightness, illuminating the darkness of ignorance, just as a single lit candle can illuminate a room that has been dark for thousands of years. So Venerable Master Guangqin said, wisdom is the inner light that enables us to discern and comprehend the essence of everything. It helps us eliminate all vexations generated by our ignorance and escape the cycle of birth and death. So other than representing wisdom, light also represents the act of giving because it gives of itself so that others can see. So the most obvious example is candles. So as the candle burns away, it illuminates the surroundings. What is the meaning of offering water? So sometimes at the temple, or if you have your Buddha shrine, you will see little cups of water. Water represents purity and stillness. Our minds need to be as pure as the water and void of any greed, anger, and ignorance. We also have to be as calm and as tranquil as water. Our minds need to be as vast and expansive as the great oceans, and we need to be able to take anything in stride, good or bad, without being influenced. Just like the oceans, which each have different names, we are all really connected as one. So the water, again, reminds us of that idea. Keeping this in mind will enable us to interact with others and deal with situations with a serene and non-discriminatory mind, which, viewing everything equally, reflects everything clearly but non-judgmentally, just like a mirror. What is the meaning of offering flowers? Flowers represent causality. In our every thought, word, and deed, they will bear results. So if we wish to have good results, we must first plant the seed to create that cause. Also, flowers serve to remind us of impermanence, because as beautiful as flowers are, their beauty is short-lived, and nothing lasts forever. Everything is impermanent. What does the Dharma wheel represent? The Dharma wheel represents how the Buddhist teachings can eliminate the afflictions of living beings, just like a giant wheel can crush and destroy all kinds of rocks and stones. It also represents how the Buddhist teachings are passed on from one person to another, just like a wheel that never stops rolling. We would like to end today's class by reminding you that we should respect ourselves, and we should respect that innate Buddha nature that is within each and every one of us. Don't let yourself forget the fact that you are already in possession of absolute wisdom and omniscience. Fundamental wisdom is inherent in every person. And when the day comes that you actually experience enlightenment, and I'm very confident that you all will, nothing has actually been attained that was not already there before. And when you get tired and you feel lazy in your practice, just keep in mind that disciplined cultivation is like tending to blooms in your garden, in the garden of your mind, and the fun follows the work. It's most important to remember to be persistent in your practice, because remember the analogy from the Buddha that a tiny stream of water that flows continuously will eventually be able to penetrate even a rock. So persistence is the most important part of diligence. It's more important than quantity. So quality is more important than quantity. So when we recommend you to recite the Buddha's name, we're not saying you need to recite for an hour each day, but maybe 5 minutes persistently over a long period of time, and you will see the benefits. Just remember to keep hanging in there, persistence. Be persistent in your practice and try to apply your Buddhist knowledge in your everyday life. Just make sure that it's not just facts on a sheet of paper. You try to make use of it in your everyday life. And in that way, you will truly see the benefits. So we wish you all the best. And that's all for today. Amitabha Buddha.